Yes, welcome once again to another fantastic session. This is Santhu Sahu and you are watching Sahu's tutorial. I am conducting 1000 MCQ series for the upcoming UGC NET set exam. This is the part 8. In earlier 7 videos, I have discussed 350 questions. In this video, I will also discuss another important 50 questions for the upcoming UGC NET exam on English literature. So watch the video till the end because it is going to be a very fruitful session, very informative session. So without wasting any time, let's begin the video with question number 351. So here is the first questions of today on your screen. The first question says that Dale Hume's communicative competence, which emerged as a reaction to Noam Chomsky's, that is linguistic theory of competence and performance, has four components. So Dale Hume's communicative competence has four components. Which among the following is not one of those components? Grammatical, sociolinguistic, literary, strategic. So in Dale Hume's communicative competence, we have grammatical, so it has sociolinguistic was also there, strategic was also there, but literary was not there. So this is the thing, this is the component that was not there. So literary, so there was discourse. So these three along with these three, that is grammatical, sociolinguistic and strategic, there was discourse. There was discourse. So grammatical, so literary is the right answer. Literary was not there, was not one of the components. So look at here that communicative competence was developed by Dale Humes to describe and account for the knowledge that that speaker and listeners have in order to communicate appropriately in different contexts. It is a central notion in sociolinguistics and other socially oriented approaches to the study of language. What are the four components of communicative competence? M1, first grammatical competence, sociolinguistic competence, discourse competence, and strategy competence. So there were no literary competence. So done with first question. Question number 352. So here, what name does Magwitch use to hide his identity? So what name Magwitch use to hide his identity? Now who was Magwitch? Magwitch was the real benefactor, the real benefactor of Pip, the real benefactor the benefactor of the novel Great Expectations protagonist, that is Peep. So Philip Phillips, see, he was the real benefactor of Peep. He was the character, the convict of Great Expectation, the famous novel by Charles Dickens. So now he took a pseudonym to hide his identity. What was that name? Clovis, Probis, Cuovadis, Uncle Cavett. So it was Probis. Probis was the name that he took to hide his identity, and Magus was the real benefactor of the protagonist of the novel Great Expectation, that is Philip Pirif. Okay, so Probis is the right answer. Next question. Get Stewart. Get Stewart. Books are a load trough. Who said these lines? Philip Larkin, B. Behan, Dylan Thomas, Emily Dickinson. So these lines were spoken by that is Philip Larkin. So Philip Larkin is the right answer here. Next question 354. Which novel of Noyantara Sagal is set during the emergency and narrates a slow erosion of values among both civil servants and people at large after independence? Rich like us, Mistaken Identity, Storm in Chandigarh, A Time to Be Happy. So Nayanthara Segal's famous two novels are Rich Like Us and Mistaken Identity. And the first novel, that is Rich Like Us, deals with the emergency. So Rich Like is the right answer. Nayanthara Segal's that is the novel Rich Like Us deals with the emergency. Okay. Next question. Which poet's epitaph was that? Here lies one whose name was read in water. That means he will be forgotten. That means he will be forgotten. Here lies one whose name was read in water. पानी में लिखा गया था. That means he will be forgotten after the death. Lord Byron, Robert Sadi, W.V. Yeats, John Keats. So it was John Keats. It was John Keats. So the epitaph of John Keats was, "Here lies one whose name was read in water," and he intended that it will be written on his epitaph. That's why it was also written on his epitaph that here lies one whose name was read in water. Next question: whose epithet contains, okay, let's this is the explanation here. Whose epithet contains, "Here lies one whose name was in water"? Here lies one whose name was written in water is the bitter description etched at Keats' dying request. It was the dying request, that's why I told that he intended to do so. The final sentiment from a poet who believed to his words would fade into oblivion when Keats died from the due to tuberculosis when he was only 25 years old on 23rd February 1821. The furniture in his room, now a museum, was burned. So it was his dying request to write that on his epitaph after his death. Okay. Who said this line that caste is not just a division? It is repeated. Okay, caste is not just a division of labor; it is a division of laborers. B.R. Ambedkar, Rujun Dangal, Babura Bagul, Bama. So here it is written by B.R. Ambedkar. B.R. Ambedkar wrote these lines. Here, Babura Bagal, when I hid my caste, Bama's Karuku. And here Arjun Dangal, the poison bread. Okay. Look back in anger, the kitchen sink drama. The look back in anger, the kitchen sink drama. The kitchen sink drama. The kitchen sink drama of 1950s was in which year was performed? Okay, 1955, 1956, 1954, 1959. So look back in anger was performed in the year 1956. So it is a kitchen sink drama. Kitchen sink drama. Now look at here. That is look back in anger, published in the performed in 1956, a realist play written by John Osborne. It focuses on the life and marital struggle of an intelligent, educated but disaffected young man of working class origin, and the character was Jimmy Potter. This is the novel of Jimmy Potter, and his equally competent yet impassive upper middle class wife, that is Allison. And the supporting characters include Cleve, was trying to bring peace in between them, an amiable Wales lodger who attempts to keep the peace, and Helena Charles, Allison's snobbish friend. Okay, and the play spawned the term "angry young men" to describe Osborne and those of his generation who employed the harshness of realism in the theatre in contrast to the more escapist theatre that characterized the previous generation. This harsh realism has led to Look Back in Anger being considered as one of the first examples of kitchen sink drama. Next question: who is the author of Memoirs of the Life of Sir Walter Scott? That is John G. Lockhart, Henry Hallam, William Govett, none of these. So, Memoirs of the Life of Sir Walter Scott was written by, John G. Lockhart. John G. Lockhart. Next question: which of the following poems contains within itself the essence of carpe diem? The essence of carpe diem: epithalamion, prothalamion, to the virgins to make much of time, astrophil, and stella. So the poem that deals with that contains within itself the essence of carpe diem is Robert Herrick's To the Virgins to Make Much of Time. To the Virgins to make much of time. Here, Robert Herrick expressed a sharp sense of carpe diem in the first stanza of the poem, that is, to the virgins to make much of time. Robert Herrick, who printed Shakespeare's sonnets: Thomas Thorpe, Ben Jonson, Francis Beaumont, John Fletcher. So Shakespeare's sonnets were printed by Thomas Thorpe. Thomas Thorpe. Next question: the novel No Name, that was published in the year 1862, was written by whom? Anthony Trollope, Charles Kingsley, Wilkie Collins, none of these. So No Name was written by Wilkie Collins. Wilkie Collins wrote this novel, that is No Name. Next question. Look at here. No Novel is a novel by Wilkie Collins. No Name, first published in the year 1862. Illegitimacy is the major theme of the novel. So what was the major theme of the novel? Illegitimacy. And it was originally serialized in Charles Dickens' magazine, that is All the Year Round, before its publication. Okay. Elizabeth Barrett Browning's sonnet, that is Sonnets from the Portuguese, that was published in the year 1850, was originally called In Whose Name. The names reply to the shepherd, the passionate shepherd to his love, that is song to Celia, and other poems. or sonnets from the Bosnian. So it was sonnets from the Bosnian was the right answer. Elizabeth Barrett sonnets from the Portuguese was originally called as sonnets from Bosnian. So D is the right answer. Next question. According to Wikipedia, the collection was originally called sonnets from Bosnian, but was changed to Portuguese after Robert's suggestion, perhaps stemming from his nickname of Elizabeth, my little Portuguese. Okay. Who wrote the Great Tradition that published in the 1948? G. Wilson Knight, T.S. Eliot, F.R. Leavitt, Alan Tate. So it was written by F.R. Leavitt. F.R. Leavitt wrote here the Great Tradition. Here he mentions about the four novelists. One is Joseph Conrad, Jane Austen. So there's Jane Austen, Joseph Conrad, and Henry James and George Eliot. In his work, F.R. Leavitt's names Jane Austen, George Eliot, Henry James, and Joseph Conrad as a great English novelist. So they are the great English. Four are the great English novelists, and all these eight, including Charles Dickens, Nathaniel Hawthorne, and Herman Melville, and Edgar Allan Poe, we have successors of Shakespeare. Within his argument, he adds that D.H. Lawrence to the pantheon of great novelists in English, though Lewis discusses Lawrence more in later works. Lewis disparaged Dickens. Lewis disparaged Dickens except for his novel Hard Times. So he praised for the novel Hard Times, but Lewis disparaged Dickens. Okay, because his novels lacked the mature standards and interest. Those were found in the works of Henry James. So Lewis actually praising Hard Times, but all the other novels were not praised by Lewis. So the four who are the four great novelists, English novelists: Jane Austen, Joseph Conrad, George Eliot, and Henry James. And the other four were the successors of Shakespeare. And the great Indian novel was written by Shashi Tharoor. It is also said in emergency period. It is also said in emergency period as well. Emergency period. Indian emergency period. So great Indian novel is Shashi Tharoor's novel by Shashi Tharoor, satirical novel. It is a fictional work that takes the story of Mahabharata, the Indian epic, and recasts and resets it in the context of Indian independence movement. The work includes numerous puns and allusion to famous works about India, such as those by Rudyard Kipling, Paul Scott, and E.M. Foster. So the great Indian novel is written by that is Shashi Tharoor. Next question, you have to match it. Competence, performance, signified, signifier, metaphor, metonymy, content, and expression. So here signifier and signifier Ferdinand de Saussure. Then you have metaphor and metonymy, you have Roman Jacobson. Then you have competence and performance. These are the terms related to Noam Chomsky. And you have last one, that is content and expression, is Louis Helmslov. Okay, Louis Helmslov. Okay. Now look at the here. Look at here that in linguistics, linguistic competence is the system of unconscious knowledge that one knows when they know one language. It is distinguished from linguist performance, which includes all the other factors that allow one to use one's language in practice. The term linguistic performance was used by Noam Chomsky in 1960 to describe the actual usage of language in concrete situation. It is used to describe both the production, sometimes called parole, as well as comprehension of language. Performance is defined in opposition to competence. The latter describes the mental knowledge that a speaker or listener has of one language. So this is the first one is, that is the mental knowledge. That is, you have competence. Competence is the mental knowledge, and whereas performance is the actual uses of language in concrete situations. And Louis Troll Helmslov founded the Copenhagen Linguistic Circle. He attempted to render more rigorous and clear Saussurean's general theory of language and semiotics. In particular, Helmslov is remembered as the inventor of glossmatics, and for having given a new rigor to the notion of connotation. Expression and content, we find, are also the two inseparable functives of the sign function. So for the Helmslov, prolegomena to a theory of language, his best known work, Language is Both Science System, a Process of Realization. So Louis Helmslov is related to expression and content. They are the inseparable functives of the sign function. Okay, what kind of the work is Tobias Smollett's The Adventure of Roderick Random? Psychological thriller, periodics, epistolary, historical fantasy. So here, The Adventures of Roderick Random is a picaresque novel by Tobias Smollett. Look at here that it is a picaresque novel by Tobias Smollett, first published in the year 1748. It is particularly based on Smollett's experience, the naval surgeon that naval surgeons made in the Royal Navy, especially during the Battle of Cartagena de Indias in 1741. And in the preface, Smollett acknowledged the connections of his novel to the two satirical picaresque works that he translated into English, that is Cervantes' Don Quixote and Alan Lesgie's Gil Blas. Okay, next question. What happened to Compeyson? Compeyson is the antagonist. Compeyson was the antagonist of the novel Great Expectation. Compeysons and Magwitch. So they are two enemies. The two rivalries. So Compeyson. So what happens to Compeyson at the end of the novel? So at the end of the novel, that is the novel. Whose novel? It is Great Expectation. The novel is Great Expectation. The novel is Great Expectation by Expectations by Charles Dickens. So he disappears. So what happens to him at the end of the novel? He disappears and is presumed drowned. He is killed by Orlick. He is shot by the police. He escapes with the Havisham fortune. So here he disappears and is presumed as drowned. So okay, which novel by E.M. Foster imbibes or assimilates the features that were common during the earlier Edwardian period and its precedent, the Victorian era? Which novel of E.M. Foster's imbibes or assimilates the features that were common during the earlier Edwardian period and its precedent in the Victorian era? The Hero of Devi, A Passage to India, Howard's End, Where Angels Fears to Tread. So the novel is here Howard's End and it is an epigram which only connect. So this is the epigram only connect. It was given by here David Lodge. Look at it. The Penguin Classic Edition includes an introduction and notes by David Lodge. Only connect. David Lodge's introduction provides an absorbing and eloquent overture to the 1910 novel that established Foster's reputation as an important writer and that he himself later referred to as my best novel. Now, David Lodge, in the introduction of the 2000 Penguin edition of Howard's End, claims that Howard's End has title in common with the works of the major modernist novelists who reacted strongly against the form of the 19th century novel, in which typically a complex plot is narrated and commented on by an omniscient authorial voice. Now, Foster was an early modernist, but he also displayed many features, look at here, many features typical of the earlier Edwardian and Victorian era. So, in that novel, we'll get the glimpses of Edwardian, so the features typical of the earlier Edwardian and Victorian era. Howard's End is said in the Edwardian period. So, Howard's End is the right answer here. Next question, which of the following is not one of the 5 movements in the wasteland? So there are 5 movements. The Bill of the Dead was there, the Game of Chess there, the Fire Sermon was there, the Ceremonial Water was not there. So it was Death by Water. It was Death by Water. Death by Water. It was not Ceremonial Water. And okay, so there were 5. Look at here that the 5. The Bill of the Dead, then Game of Chess, then Fire Sermon. After fire comes water, then the thunder, what the thunder says. So this is the first, this is the second one, third one, fourth one, and what the thunder said is a 5th one. And a Game of Chess is the allegorical one. This is the allegorical. This is allegorical. Allegorical. And this is the Wasteland was published in the year. The Wasteland was published in the year 1992. 1992. It's published in the year 1992. Okay. Sorry, 1922. Sorry, 1922. The Wasteland was published in the year 1922. 1922. 2019. Okay. Yes. Next question. Reading make the fool man, conference a ready man, and writing an exact man. In which of Bacon's essays does the sentence mentioned above appear? Of studies, of king, of simulation and dissimulation, of revenge. So it is very easy. It comes in the essay of studies. In the final editions of Bacon's, there are 58 essays. There are 58 essays. In the final editions. Okay, 58 essays Bacon's of studies. Okay, which poetry movement was associated with William Carlos William? William Carlos William, symbolism, cubism, surrealism. It was imagism. So imagism. So William Carlos William was related to associated with the movement that is imagism, And imagism, here you will get others proponents are it is Ezra Pound. It is Ezra Pound. Ezra Pound. You have Ezra Pound, T. Hume, Hilda Doolittle, T. E. Hume. These are Doolittle. Look at here. Imagist publication appearing between 1914 to 1917, featured works by many of the most prominent modernist figures in poetry and other fields, including Ezra Pound, H.D. Doolittle, that is Hilda Doolittle, Amy Lowell, Ford Madox Ford, William Carlos William, F.S. Flynn, and T. Hume. The Imagists were centered in London with members from Great Britain, Ireland, and United States. Okay. So the ideogrammatic method was next question. The ideogrammatic method was a technique expounded by which of the imagists. So Ezra Pound, Emil Lovell, Ford Motorsports, William Carlos Williams, F.S. Flynn, T. Hume. These were all okay imagist. These are imagist. Imagists. So here Ezra Pound propounded or expounded the technique, that is ideogrammatic. Ezra Pound is the right answer here. Ezra Pound, ideogrammatic. Next question. Look at here. The ideogrammatic TIC. Ideogrammatic method was a technique expounded by Ezra Pound which allowed poetry to deal with the abstract content through concrete image. The idea was based on Pound's reading of the work of Ernest Fenollosa, especially the Chinese written character as a medium of poetry, composed by Fenollosa but edited by Pound after the author's death. So the Pound gives a brief account in his book ABC of Reading. He explains his understanding of the Chinese characters were formed. Okay, next question. Who wrote the ABC of Reading? The ABC of Reading, who wrote ABC of Reading? Ezra Pound, Emil Lowell, Ford Motorsport, William Carlos Williams. So the ABC of Reading was written by Ezra Pound. So A is the right answer. Next question. Who delivered a lecture on modern poetry? A lecture on modern poetry to the Poets Club. Ford Motorsport, William Carlos Williams, F.S. Flynn, T. Hume. So a lecture on modern poetry was a speech. It was delivered by T. Hume. So T. Hume is the right answer here. A lecture on modern poetry. T. Hume. Next question. To Kill a Mockingbird. To Kill a very important over. To Kill a Mockingbird is a novel by the American author Harper Lee, Truman Capote, Thomas Pynchon, Stephen Edward King. So here Harper Lee is the right answer. Harper Lee wrote the very famous novel, that is To Kill a Mockingbird. To Kill a Mockingbird was written by Harper Lee. So look at this explanation. It was published in 1960. In the United States, it was widely read in schools and in the middle schools. To Kill a Mockingbird has become a classic of modern American literature. It has won him the Pulitzer Prize. Won her the Pulitzer Prize. The plot and characters are loosely based on Lee's observation of her family, her neighbors, and an event that occurred near her hometown, that is Alabama, in Monroeville, Alabama, 1936, when she was 10. The story, told by 6-year-old Jean Louise Finch, takes place during the 3 years of the Great Depression in the fictional town of the Macomb, Alabama. Scholars are characterized To Kill a Mockingbird as both a Southern Gothic and as a Bildungsroman. So To Kill a Mockingbird was written by American writer, that is you have Harper Lee. That is Harper Lee. Next question. The term historicism was coined by which? By whom? Okay. The Carl William Friedrich Hegel, Michael D. Montaigne, George William Friedrich Hegel, Karl Marx. So here historicism was actually coined by Carl William Friedrich Hegel. So here A is the right answer. A is the right answer. Okay. Next question here. Who is the author of the book Same? Who is the author of the book Same? P.S. Naifal, Salman Rushdie, Rudyard Kipling, Shashi Tharoor. So here Same was written by Salman Rushdie. Salman Rushdie wrote the book that is Same. So name the novel that ends with these lines. Name the novel that ends with these lines. Unbroken tranquility had been accorded in the adult stage, whose youth had seemed to teach that happiness was but the occasional episode in a general drama of pain. So it was the mayor of Casterby, Jude the obscure, desperate remedies far from the madding crowd. So it was the mayor of Casterby. The mayor of Casterby. So this was the ending lines of the novel, The Mayor of Casterby. Next question. Romeo and Juliet is based on the story by which Italian author? So Matteo Bandello, Virgil, John Stowe, H.B. Stowe.
So it had better story. So here Romeo and Juliet is based on the story by which Italian author? It is Matteo Bandello. Matteo Bandello. Look at here that Shakespeare's principal source for the plot of Romeo and Juliet was the tragical history of Romeo and Juliet, a long narrative poem written in 1562 by the English poet Arthur Brooke. But Arthur Brooke actually had based his poem on French translation of a tale by the Italian writer Matteo Bandello. So Shakespeare took it from Arthur Brooks and Arthur Brooke took it from Matteo Bandello's. Okay. Who wrote under the pseudonym of YY? Bartlett Russell, Jerome K. Jerome, then Robert Wilson Lynch, Francis Bacon. So YY was the pseudonym of Robert Wilson Lynch. So C is the right answer. Riddle of the Seventh Stone. Riddle of the Seventh Stone. Riddle of the Seventh Stone is a 2010 novel by Maheshwara Devi, no, Mirza Hadi Rusba, no, Manideepa Sahu, Basudevan Nair. So it was written, Riddle of the Seventh Stone, it was written by Manideepa Sahu. Manideepa Sahu had written the novel, that is Riddle of the Seventh Stone. Okay. Riddle of the Seventh Stone is a 2010 novel by Manideepa Sahu. The fantasy novel is for children set in Bangalore, a book longlisted for the Vodafone crossover book award for 2011. So set in Bangalore, this book is about a spider and a rat magically turning into a human children. A children with help from their vermin friends, the duo gang up with the grandchildren of the harp shop owner to save it from a land shark. Okay, the Barman's transformation to humans in nature and thinking and their improving in the face of adversity is an underlying theme of the book. Many places described in the book are in the old parts of Bangalore dating back to times of the city's founding. The City Market, Avenue Road, Bangalore Fort and Court Venkataram Temple are real places that can be found in that novel. So the riddle of the seventh stone was written by Manideepa Sahu, where the main protagonist is Rishabh. Rishabh is the aged rat who transforms into a shy and awkward boy who overcomes his shyness to become the hero of the novel by solving the riddle of the seven stone. So this person, that Rishabh, that boy, has solved the aged rat who transforms into a shy and awkward boy has the capacity to solve the riddle of seven stone, finding the treasure and becoming friends with the girl called Gita, whom he saved from an accident. So this is it going to be by Manideepa Sahu. Next question. Fairy Jaxi, beloved, stone girl with feather pan, carved in dreams for its for fits of phallic fury. First flash of desire purged it in pools of fire. Who told this line? Pritesh Nandi, A.K. Ramanujan, Sarojini Naidu, P. Lal. So it was Purushottam Lal who founded the writer's workshop in Calcutta. P. Lal is the right answer here. Okay. Next question. The monk, the Mungran Moses Ben Julian is a novel by Mirza Hadi Rasubah, Manideepa Sahu, Basudevan Nair, Syed Akhtar Mirza. So this novel was written by Syed Akhtar Mirza. So 4 is the right answer here. Next question. While the present century was in its teens, and on one sunshiny morning in June, they drove up to the great iron gates of Miss Pinkerton's Academy for Young Ladies on Chiswick Mall, a large family coach with two fat horses in blazing harness, driven by a fat coachman in three-cornered hat and wig, at the rate of 4 miles an hour, which is the novel that begins with these words. Tom Jones, no. Vanity Fair, Jude the Obscure, no. So here Vanity Fair, the novel Vanity Fair, novel without a hero, begins with these opening lines that while the present century was in its teens, and on one sunny morning in June, they drove up to a great iron gates of Miss Pinkerton's Academy of Young Ladies. Okay. And next question, Necropolis is the debut novel of which author? Jit Thayal, Anita Nayar, Namita Gokhale, Gurdal Singh. So here, Necropolis is the debut novel of Jit Thayal. So here, 1 is the right answer. Next question. Okay, look at this explanation. The debut novel of Indian author Jit Thayal, which is shortlisted for the 2012 Man Booker Prize. It is set in 1970s old Bombay and concerns opium and its influence. The story expands to encompass such characters as Dimple as Hijra, Rashid to the opium house's owner, and Mr. Lee, the former Chinese officer, all of whom have stories to tell. This is by Jit Thayer. The Cromwell, the dictator, was said to have been influenced by which work? Utopia, Capital, The Prince, none of these. So he was influenced by the book that is The Prince. The Prince. Okay. The word Ilia, that is Essays of Ilia, is associated with which writer? Thomas D. Quincy, William Hazlitt, Charles Lamb, none of these. So it was Charles Lamb. As the first essay was published in 1823, Essays of Ilia. The last Essays of Ilia was after 10 years, that is 1833. 1823 first Essays of Ilia was published in 1823, and 1833 the last Essays of Ilia. So after 10 years of gap, the second edition was published. So look at here that Essays of Ilia is a collection of essays written by Charles Lamb. It was first published in the book from 1823. The second volume was Last Essays of Ilia, issued in 1833 by the publisher Edward Moxon. Lamb himself is the Elia of the collection, and his sister Mary is cousin Brigade. Who is cousin Brigade? His sister. And Charles first used the pseudonym Elia for an essay that is on South Sea House. On the South Sea House, in this essay, he has used for the first time the pseudonym Elia. So it was the pseudonym of Charles Lamb, that is Elia. Hukum Chand, Iqbal Singh, Jagat Singh appear in which of the following novel? R. Raja Rao, Mulkesh Anand, R. K. Naran, Kushwant Singh. So these characters appear in the novel of Kushwant Singh, that is A Train to Pakistan, which A Train to Pakistan, it is A Train to Pakistan, and where it was set in the Mano Majra, that is the fictional area, Mano Majra, the fictional village Mano Majra, and it has four parts. Okay, it is four parts. Train to Pakistan, Mano Majra, four parts. These are the novels. These characters appear in the novel of Kushwant Singh, that is A Train to Pakistan. Next question: the mind forged manacles appears in which poem? London, Eternity of Poetry, The Lamb. So the phrase mind forged manacles appear in the poem London, that was written by William Blake. So here London is the right answer. Next question: the dialect that Chaucer used was East Midland, Northern dialect, both A and B, none of these. So Chaucer used East Midland. Chaucer has popularized that East Midland dialect. Next question: politics and the English language is an essay by F.R. Leavitt, Terry Gilton, George Orwell, Raymond Williams. So it was George Orwell. George Orwell wrote the essay, that is politics and the English language. So here C is the right answer, George Orwell. Next question, okay, look at this explanation that politics and the English language is an essay by George Orwell that criticizes the ugly and imprecise written English of his time and examines the connection between political conversation and denigration of the language. In his essay, Politics and the English Language, George Orwell's central point is that bad writing produces bad politics. According to Orwell, a culture full of lazily written nonsense enables government to control citizens through deceptive messaging. Please visit the playlist, that is 1000 MCQ series for the upcoming UGC NET exam. You will get all the videos there. Watch the video and do not forget to subscribe my channel Sahu's Tutorial. Do a favor by subscribing my channel Sahu's Tutorial. Okay. Who described Chaucer as the whale of English undefiled? It was Pope, Dryden, Shakespeare, Spenser. So it was Spenser. Spenser described Chaucer as the whale of English undefiled in the work that is the Fairy Queen. Then the Fairy Queen. So Spenser is the right answer here. And for which reason the whale of our English undefiled? What quality of Chaucer does this phrase refer to? His diction, his linguistic competence, his avoidance of foreign influences. So his avoidance of foreign influences. Okay. Now look at who is Lois, that is Lois talking about in the following line. He found English a dialect and left it a language. That is John Livingston Lois. Shakespeare, Milton, Chaucer, T.S. Eliot. So that Chaucer is the person who found English a dialect and left it a language. So here Chaucer is the right answer. And Lois is talking about Chaucer in this line. The epithet that is the Augustan was first applied to Dryden by whom? It was Dryden by whom? William Congreve? No. Shadwell? No. John Bunyan? No. It was Dr. Samuel Johnson who applied the epithet Augustan to Dryden. So it was Dr. Samuel Johnson. So D is the right answer here. Who among the following called the novel as the bright book of life? These questions were asked in WB set 2022. So who among the following called the novel as the bright book of life? D is Lawrence, James Joyce, Virginia Woolf, Aldous Huxley. So it was D.S. Lawrence called the novel as the bright book of life. So here one is the right answer here. Next question: because of whose refusal that the post of poet laureate went to Robert Sadi. The post of poet laureate went to Robert Sadi in 1813. So who refused that poet laureateship? That's why it was given to Robert Sadi in 1813. In 1813. So Walter Scott, Henry James, and Jane Austen, and none of these. So yeah, the right option is here. The right option is here. It is that is Walter Scott. A is the right answer here. So Walter Scott refused to take the post of poet laureate, and that's why that was given to Robert Sadi in the year 1813. So here A is the right answer here. Okay. Next question: the novels of Sir Walter Scott deal with the census in Scotland, Switzerland, America. Is it the Scotland? Okay. Next question: the Muse of History. The Muse of History is a post-colonial essay. The Muse of History is a post-colonial essay by Ngugi wa Thiong'o, Chinua Achebe, Wilson Harris, Derek Walcott. So the Muse of History was written by Derek Walcott. So 4 is the right answer, Derek Walcott. Next question: who wrote Sesame and Lilies? Sesame and Lilies. Ruskin Bond? No. John Ruskin. D.S. Lawrence. Lord Byron. So here John Ruskin. John Ruskin, who wrote the Modern Painter, the Seven Lamps of Architecture. On to the last. So here John Ruskin is the right answer, and he has written that Sesame and Lilies. It is about the men and women's the Sesame and Lilies by John Ruskin, first published in the 1865, stands as a classic 19th century statement on the natures and duties of men and women. So I talked that it was about the men and women's duty. It is also about books and the importance of reading and education for women. So Sesame and Lilies by John Ruskin, who has written another famous work, that is Modern Painters, Seven Lamps of Architecture, and the And to the Last. Okay, next question: in which of the this is the last question, in which of the following essays does Kant define enlightenment as man's emergence from his self-imposed immaturity? So in which of the following essays by Kant define enlightenment as man's emergence from his self-imposed immaturity? Critique, critique as pure reason, a critique of practical reason, critique of judgment. What is enlightenment? So the right option here is what is enlightenment. So here D is the right answer here. So I have discussed another 50 questions. Visit the playlist, that is 1000 MCQ series. In that playlist you will get all the video, and thank you once again for watching this video.